Welcome for my Chanel ring Zilex.
It wasn't too bad, but I talked to Justin Gaethje about it, and he said it was a problem when he was fighting. He said the air was very thick.
Okay.
Like right after the first round, he was like, boy, like this is rough. Because that hot, humid air and, you know, it's...
Yeah. No, it's
fine walking around.
I mean, it's okay walking around. It still feels... It is a swamp, right? That's why people call it the swamp. So, you know, that's obviously June 14th. That's the president.
That's not why they call it the swamp.
That's one of the reasons why they call it the swamp.
They call it the swamp.
They call it swamp because of my colleagues, too.
Because it's filled with mud and water and gunk and shit and swamp monsters.
Oh, man. So that's June 14th. So that's the president's birthday. That was my 12th wedding anniversary.
Oh, wow.
And my wife. So that's the one thing, like if somebody runs in here, it's because my wife's going into labor because she's like 39 weeks pregnant. But I remember we go out to dinner like right before the UFC fight. And we're, of course, checking the weather report to figure out what's going on. And, you know, my wife normally likes to come to the cool stuff of being vice president. That was the one where she was like, it's hot, I'm super pregnant, and I'm not going to sit out there for 6 hours. So
yeah, I couldn't imagine.
Joe Rogan and J.D. Vance began the podcast by talking about the unforgettable UFC event held at the White House. Both agreed that it was one of the most unbelievable experiences they had ever witnessed. J.D. Vance explained that, in the weeks leading up to the event, he would look out of his office window in the West Wing every day and see a massive UFC arena being built on the south lawn of the White House. It felt so unusual that he often had to remind himself that a UFC event was actually going to take place there.
Also, it was just, there was so much chaos, and the potential for real chaos was always there. First of all, you have the Ellipse. So the Ellipse has, 85,000 people outside?
Correct. That's right.
And for people that are watching at home, like, we could hear them.
Yes.
Like when the fights, when something would happen.
in like kind of a delayed way, right? Yeah.
You hear the cheers from the people that were near, so it was like 3,000 plus people tightly close to the octagon. And then you had 85,000 people in the in the background. It was very eerie.
Yeah. I actually loved that. Like, I loved the delay reaction to where, you know, somebody get a good punch in, or, you know, you get a takedown, and then it was almost like the wave. Right?
Yeah.
Because there was the initial center of it and then the people outside of it.
It was pretty sick.
It was pretty sick. It was very cool. I think Dana said not once in a lifetime, or not once in a generation, or once in a lifetime experience.
Yeah, I mean, it's once ever.
Yeah.
I don't see any other president. I mean, if you become president, you're not going to do that, right?
I don't know, man.
I didn't want to do it.
It's actually
in the
very
first
cool.
place.
It's a very cool thing.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Get it over with. Do it once. It was the only time in the history of the sport where there's been 7 stoppages, 7 knockouts. Like every single fight was a knockout.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, every single fight.
Okay.
But the thing is, like, we've had 7 knockouts in a card. I think this last weekend we had 10 stoppages. But that was different.
Yeah.
Because it was like 14 fights.
Right. Well,
this is all fights. Every single fight was a knockout.
So the last fight, when did you realize that was over?
With Conor?
Yeah.
When he fell down the second time, I was like, oh, this is not good. For the first time, I thought he just slipped. It's hard to tell. It's wild. It's in the moment. I thought he slipped. And then when he got up and he threw a kick again, I'm like, oh, I don't like how his leg just gave out. That didn't seem like... I'm still hoping he's just slipping.
Yeah.
I'm hoping he's just freaking out because he hasn't been in the octagon in 5 years. And then he started moving around and he like grabbed his knee and buckled.
Okay.
And there was some conversation.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah, there was some conversation going on between him and Max Holloway. And I was like, you know, Max is saying he can't fight, like something's wrong. And he said, fight me. He's like, get up. And so
They then discussed the weather, which almost ruined the event. A powerful storm was expected to hit Washington, D.C., and there was a real chance that the fights would be delayed until late at night. J.D. Vance said he was worried because he had to travel to New York the next morning to promote his new book. Fortunately, the storm changed direction at the last moment, allowing the fights to start on time. Rain also helped cool down the extremely hot and humid weather, making the conditions much better for the fighters and fans.
he couldn't see well. Something was wrong with his right eye.
Well, I mean, it looks like his whole face was puffed up, so he couldn't see anything. But okay, so I thought it was a concussion thing, but it was because of his vision.
No, they never do that. The concussion thing would only be if someone had been battered. There's a lot of times where fighters are fighting with concussions.
Yeah.
It happens all the time.
Yeah.
You get dropped in the first round, you probably have a concussion.
Yeah.
You get back up, you keep fighting, you're fighting on instincts. There's been many times where fighters wake up in like the 4th round.
Sure.
And they've fought 3 rounds and they don't remember it at all. I know.
God, that's pretty crazy.
Not the best way to make a living.
Not the best way to make a living, man. Yeah, no, so we saw Gaethje at the White House a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, I saw that.
I asked him, I was like, so are you done fighting? And he kind of hesitated a little bit. And then I think it was his mom was in the Oval Office with him. She's like, yes.
Yeah, but, if they offer him some life-changing money for one more fight after that performance, I have a feeling he'll take it.
Like, what could he fetch for his next fight? Like 50 more?
It's a good question. I don't know what his contract is. I don't know how it works. I don't know what the most anyone's ever. I try not to pay attention to that stuff.
Yeah.
Because I'm not on the business end of the sport.
It can kind of color your perception a little bit.
It can. And I want them to get paid the most amount possible.
Right.
That's my perspective.
Yeah.
But my job is just to analyze and to see what's going on and to commentate and try to give color and life to what's happening inside the octagon. And I try not to dwell too much on the money.
Yeah.
I just want them to get paid a lot.
Yeah.
I want them to be able to retire and never have to do anything ever again.
Sure.
I don't know if Justin can do that.
What's crazy about it to me is just how much the sport has replaced boxing. And like, there's still, obviously boxing is still a big deal and fighters still get paid a lot of money. But like, I remember when I was, I don't know, in high school, I feel like people would get really excited about the big heavyweight title bout. Now it's the UFC thing.
Yeah.
So culturally, it's like UFC has taken over boxing. And I don't know how or why that happened. Like, I don't know if it's just good marketing or if it's just the fights are so much more real and intense. But it is a crazy shift that's happened in 20 years.
Well, I had some.
So I'd never seen a fight live before. Like, I've watched them on TV, but I'd never been there live. So kind of crazy that it's literally in the South Lawn of the White House. But the thing that I found completely shocking about it was, like, I would think those like armbar takedowns are just done. Like, that's it. You're over. But there were a couple of times where somebody had another person's arm.
Yeah, that was Jock.
Joe Rogan mentioned that UFC fighter Justin Gaethje later told him the thick, humid air made it difficult to breathe during his fight. Even though the weather felt manageable for the audience, it was much tougher for the athletes inside the octagon. J.D. Vance joked about Washington being called the swamp, and the two laughed as they made fun of both the weather and the politicians in the city.
First of all, I think a lot of it is there is an economy that is essentially based on getting reaction.
Correct.
And there's a lot of people that are just, for a lack of a better term, they're not real. Their reactions are performative. Like, a lot of what they're doing is just trying to comment on things and get clicks and likes and views. And social media has ruined discourse in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
because people are not having like real conversations about things. They're reacting to things on Instagram and Twitter.
Yes.
And, they're just, they look at an opportunity like that, like, oh, I found a gold nugget.
Yeah.
Like, this is going to give me money, or this is going to give me attention. This is going to give, I can't wait to have a take on that.
Well, that's exactly right. So my response to that is so many things is like, oh, he was being funny, he was being outrageous, and I just move on with my life. What I find very interesting is the people who say, oh, that was a joke. Like when Kill Tony, do you remember he told like the joke heard around the world in Madison Square Garden during the 2024 election? I remember getting into an argument with somebody about this, and I may have even been like in an interview, but I don't remember. It could have been private too. Anyway, I'm like, he told a joke. And the person's response is, well, it's not a very funny joke. And my response to that is, you know what happens when somebody tells me a joke that's not funny? I don't laugh, and then I move on with my life. This whole industry around outrage, especially getting outraged around humor, I think is actually really hurting the country.
Well, in that case, first of all, I told Tony a long time ago that joke was going to get him stabbed. I really did. He even jokes around about it on stage. He talks about me telling him, that's the one, dude. That's the one's going to get you stabbed.
Any good joke, at least is going to run you some risk of getting
certainly
stabbed.
a racial joke. And that joke being about Puerto Rico. By the way, no one takes a joke better than Puerto Ricans. Puerto Ricans are some of the best people at telling jokes. Like, it is a culture of joking and fucking around with each other and talking shit.
Absolutely.
Like, They're great at it. So like they
I
love
served
him
some
still.
Puerto Rican guys in the Marine Corps, man. That's absolutely true.
They love him still.
Yes.
You know, like even after that joke.
Yeah.
But
So you advised him not to tell that joke?
Well, I was kind of half joking. You know, Tony, that's what Tony does. You know what? I just said that's the one that's going to get you stabbed. Yeah. But I mean, that's what Tony does. Tony is like the Josh Hokett of comedy. Like but very talented. You know, he's a really good, he's a roaster.
So
He's like roasting is his specialty, but it's also like he's trying to ruffle people's feathers. That's what he wants to do.
Yep.
He wants to piss people off. He likes being a pro wrestling heel.
Yeah.
He's a huge pro wrestling fan.
So Tony, I'm a huge fan of his comedy. I've only, met him a couple times. I don't know him particularly well, but he's actually more political, I would say, than most comedians. Do you think that's fair? Okay.
Yes.
So,
very supportive of like Trump.
Like he's on the Republican team.
Yes,
he's on the Republican
100%.
team.
So because he's experienced so many loony left-wing people in California, and that's why he had to move.
Well, somebody sent me a clip. I think it was Shane Gillis at a roast where the joke was they were roasting Tony, and they're like, Tony Hinchcliffe is the only dude who would be excited if J.D. Vance was here. And I was like, one, that's a very good joke. And number two, I feel like I had made it. Like there have been a few moments where I feel like I've made it. When
The conversation then turned to the huge crowd. Around 3,000 people were seated close to the octagon, while about 85,000 fans watched from outside on the ellipse. Joe Rogan said one of the coolest parts of the event was hearing the delayed cheers from the massive crowd outside whenever something exciting happened inside the cage. It created an atmosphere unlike anything he had ever experienced before. J.D. Vance also shared that the event took place on President Donald Trump's birthday and his own 12th wedding anniversary. His wife, who was 39 weeks pregnant, decided not to attend because of the extreme heat. They joked about how unforgettable that day had become for many different reasons. Joe Rogan praised the action inside the cage, pointing out that every fight ended by knockout or stoppage. He said it was one of the most exciting UFC cards ever because there was not a single fight that went the distance. According to him, that level of action made the event truly historic.
It's totally crazy to me too. I think part of it is we haven't done a good enough job of actually going to some of these places. Part of it is that it is shifting, and sometimes these shifts just take a long time. If you look, the Republican Party under Trump's leadership is way more working class, way more middle class than the Republican Party of 20 years ago. So these things are starting to shift. But the public safety thing is very interesting to me because, like, one of the promises of America is that every man, woman, and child, rich or poor, black or white, deserves public safety. Like every rich person ever has had public safety. Every rich person ever has been able to afford some security guard to make sure that somebody who comes and tries to steal their stuff or kidnap their kids, they're protected against that. What America did is we democratized public safety. Every person gets to keep their property. Every person gets to not be stolen from. Every person gets to walk down their neighborhood at night without being mugged. And obviously we have imperfectly applied that, but what the left has done over the last few years, why I think the crime thing is, it's not just a sort of public safety thing, it's also a class thing, is they have made working people less safe. Like if you look at my neighborhood, the neighborhood that my working class grandparents raised me in, it became less safe over time, and really working class neighborhoods had much higher rates of violence, much higher rates of carjackings and so forth. That happened during Biden's administration. That's not a coincidence.
No. Anything else?
Go by communion, Joe, and we can talk about religion and faith and the Ten Commandments next time. But thanks for having me, man.
Thanks for being here. Appreciate it. All right, wrap it up.
Finally, they discussed how difficult it is for referees to make quick decisions during MMA fights. They mentioned the Ilia Topuria versus Justin Gaethje fight and explained that referees sometimes have only a split second to decide whether a fighter is still able to continue safely. Joe Rogan concluded that protecting the fighters must always be the referee's highest priority, even if fans or fighters disagree with the decision in the moment. Thanks for watching my Chanel. Subscribe the button coming back to Ring Zillax.